Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the dude manning the counter, Duncan, and today we are going to talk about Real Steel, starring Hugh Jackman, Dakota Goyo, and Evangeline Lilly. It was directed by Shawn Levy, and it came out 10 years ago. I saw it almost 10 years ago now, and I thought it was a great movie, and it did get some acclaim, but it's kind of Hugh Jackman's had so many great movies, so it's kind of been forgotten about a little bit. So I think I'll talk about it some today. And it's streaming on Netflix, I believe, so check it out if you're interested after this video, of course. Now, the movie here, when I first saw the trailers, I saw a bunch of CGI robots, and I saw Hugh Jackman, so I was like, okay, this is typical kind of lighthearted blockbuster here. You know, nothing too groundbreaking. And when I saw it in the theater, I had my family take me for my birthday. I wanted to go see it. I just like going to the theater, and so I went, and I figured it'd be alright. But what this movie has that really captured a lot of people, and even critics and, casual movie-going people are like, this movie's got the main important ingredient, heart. And so I'm going to dive into the story a little bit and explain what makes it so hard. Now, this movie has every cliche. Obviously, the Rocky formula was applied to this movie. So, there's that, and a little bit. It has a Steven Spielberg feel to it, too. Not that those are bad things. Those two things are not bad at all. So, it starts out, Hugh Jackman plays Charlie Kenton, and it takes place in the not-too-distant future where people don't fight anymore. There's no human combat sports. They all watch and bet on robots that are programmed, and there's programmers that, operate them. And they're these 8-foot robots. And Hugh Jackman was a former boxer, and so his character Charlie just goes around wherever to the local fair or wherever, whatever robot he can throw together, and he's heavily in debt, and he's an absentee dad, and he's not really a good guy, and he doesn't pay off his debts, and his word means nothing. So, you've seen that before, and so it starts out at a rodeo, and he has this pretty good robot that takes on a bull, and the bull destroys his robot. So, there he is, and he made a bet he couldn't pay up on, so he had to flee. But then he does get stopped by the authorities, and you have a 10 or 11-year-old son, and his name's Max, and his mother died. And, he really didn't know his mother. It was kind of a one-night fling, but Max was the result of that. And so, he has to, meet his son that he really doesn't know, and the son's obviously heartbroken, and he's in a tough situation because all he knows, is gone, and he has to meet a dad who basically abandoned him. So they have to kind of bond, and as I said, Charlie's really not a guy who's honorable, and he was kind of a down and out fighter, and I think that did something to him. And the only one who really believes in him at all is Bailey, played by Evangeline Lilly, and she owns a gym, and so that's where, and she puts up with his hustling and his latest schemes. But then he brings Max home with him, and so she's like, how are you going to be a dad? So another thing that's approached here is Max's mother had a sister who's married to a guy who's very well off, and they're willing to take Max in and raise him. But he goes to Charlie and be like, look, we have this big summer vacation planned. It's already been in the making. I want to go ahead and go through with it. After that, I'll take Max. And so Charlie needs another robot since it got destroyed. He's like, okay, I'll keep Max for the summer, but it's going to cost you. And he went and bought another robot. So he found a deal on another robot that he takes to a fighting circuit, and it gets destroyed. So, Charlie just continues to screw up. And Max takes a liking to the robot fighting circuit. So they go one night to a robot junkyard because Charlie just wants to find some parts, see if he can throw a makeshift robot and hustle up some more money, because, you know, he just has to keep, it's a perpetual cycle of self-destruction in a way. But Max helps him out, and he knows a little bit about circuitry and stuff. He's kind of a whiz kid in a little bit, and he unintentionally discovers this sparring robot, and they call him Adam. And he's a sparring robot he's used for other robots to pound on, so he can take quite a licking and keep on ticking. And the thing he does, he has a feature where he can mimic, you know, instructions. Like if somebody moves, he can mimic those moves. And since Charlie was a boxer, you know, that's a feature he has. So anyway, they rig him up, and Max is like, let me put him in a fight. So they go to some terrible place, you know, where they run little $2 robot fights. And so he takes Adam in there, and Adam, you know, took a beating, but he can deliver a few things too, and they won. And so a promoter saw it and was like, hey, bring him here, you know, and they start working their way up. And since Adam can mimic, you know, Max can dance, and so he does a little dance routine before their fight. So it brings in more, it brings a little bit of flair to the show. And Charlie and Max bond a little bit, you know. Obviously Max is reluctant since he wasn't the greatest dad, but, you know, they kind of form a bond with this robot. And, you know, through the robot. And, you know, they tour all over the country, you know, started making some money. And Max, you know, after all he's been through, this kind of gives him something, you know, live for and look forward to. And Charlie, always down and out, finds a little something too. And so this continues to kind of work for them. And the movie here, the production design is great. It had a big budget, and there's some actual real robot, like animatronics. So, you know, it's not just green screens and CGI the entire time. There is some, you know, practical effects when they can. And there's obviously some CGI for the robot fights and stuff. But it all looks great. And so it's a really good movie with a lot of heart. And it kind of shows how people that are down and out, you know, find things to live for again, you know, in this tough world. And that's where the heart really kicks in. And as they work their way up, you know, the fighting circuit, you know, they're kind of fighting for a little place in this world where they can be happy too. And, you know, Charlie learns about himself and knows that he's not the greatest guy. And, you know, Max, you know, sees that, you know, maybe Charlie is trying to redeem himself some. So there's all that, and it's just really good. So I really recommend it, and since it's streaming on Netflix, I recommend you give it a look. What did you think of it? Let me know all that in the comments. Anything you might like me to review in the future. I got a couple physical media releases that I will cover in the near future. I got a pretty busy work schedule ahead of me, and I got getting the house painted. So I don't know when I'll get to them, but I will. So anyway, if you like older movies, please like and subscribe. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.